I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future, and instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be. Follow the path, not the result. I am out in California today at Taki Moore's event in Redondo Beach, and today was just incredibly intense. Learning from Taki, he's somebody who I respect incredibly. I don't follow anyone or learn from anyone unless I'm willing to become more like that person, but not just as a coach or not just as a consultant, not in the result I want, but as a complete human being. So when I look at Taki as a person, as a father, as an educator, as a business person, like everything, I'm good with him rubbing off on me. And, that's one of those things that I talk about a lot. If you're going to follow someone, you should look at the entire leader. In fact, there's a podcast I did, I think it was called You Follow the Whole Leader. And it's about that. And there's a reason. One, he feels much more credible to me. He's someone who I trust. So when I listen to him, there's a high likelihood I'm going to implement. We have a lot in common. We don't have a lot of things that are going to drive us apart in a coaching relationship. So it's been really amazing being out here. And he made this comment at the end of the day today that I thought, I've thought about doing a podcast about that so many times, and I haven't. And what he said was, far too many people try and act like they're gurus and try and do everything their gurus are doing instead of doing what their gurus did to get there. So, and that is just one of those things that I see in the entrepreneurial world so often that it's brutal. It's so painful when I'll talk to somebody and I have a standard list of questions that I ask people because I want to qualify where you are on the billionaire code. If we're going to have a conversation, if I can qualify where someone's on in the billionaire code, I can immediately understand a lot of what's going on in their life. I immediately can relate to them. I can help them solve problems. I can help them solve challenges. So my questions are simple. First, how long have you been in business? I want perspective as to how long someone's been working at someone or something. And then I ask, what is your revenue, or how many people do you have in the company? And then what's your revenue? And that gives me perspective. I know how long, the size of the team, how much someone's making, and that how much are you making number tells me where you are on the billionaire code. And most of the time, because of the law of just sheer numbers, when I'm at an event or when I'm in a mixed room of entrepreneurs, a lot of the time, most people are on the lower levels of the billionaire code. Under 300,000. They're in the seeker, starter, promoter phases. And if you're not familiar with the billionaire code, I believe it starts on podcast number 181. And there are 9 levels of the billionaire code. It starts with the podcast called Seeker. And seeker, starter, promoter is that sub $300,000 entrepreneurs, sub $300,000 business. And here's what happens so often when I'm talking to somebody who's a seeker or starter. I'll say, well, how long have you been in business? Well, under a year. And how many people do you have? Well, it's just me. And what's your revenue? Well, I've made about $4,000. Well, tell me what you're doing. And then I'll hear this cascade of effort that just seems absolutely misplaced. They'll say things like, well, I've been working on my branding and I've got my logo done. I'm starting a blog. I'm also doing my website. And I'm just standing there thinking, what is all this noise? You're not making any money. How are you doing all that stuff? Why are you doing all that stuff? That's not a strategy that's going to get you anywhere. And here's what will often happen. I will say, well, how did you formulate this plan? And they'll say, well, I follow, and then insert someone's name. And, sometimes it's someone like one of my coaches, like Russell or Taki, or they say, I follow Amy Porterfield, or I follow so-and-so, or whoever the person is online that they follow. And then they say, well, so I'm just trying to do what she does or he does. And the problem is you're trying to apply the result to create the effect. You're trying to make the result happen without looking at the path. And the reality is that every one of the people that you're going to follow, every one of the people who's doing well, I'm not going to say you're going to follow, because there's a lot of people who get followed a lot that aren't doing that well, but every single person out there with a business that's doing well, that's thriving, that's actually bringing in revenue, chances are they followed what every successful business does. You create one product or a small line of products, and one set of promotions, one promotion or one set of promotions if it's a small line. But when I say one product, maybe you just start with one, and then you use one sales process to drive that equation to $1 million or more. Because here's the problem for the vast majority of small businesses. They never just focus on one product, one promotion, and one delivery process. And when I talk to people who are working on their logo and their business cards and their branding and their Facebook page and everything but having a product that you can promote through a sales process and sell over and over and over again. And that is what your gurus probably did. I can tell you it's what Russell Brunson did. I know it's what I did. I know it's what Taki did. I know it's what Amy Porterfield did. I know it's what you name a guru online. Go look at the path that they started with. And here's what I can also tell you. I talk to entrepreneurs all the time. And again, same conversation. How long have you been in business? Been in business? About 1.5 years. How many people do you have? Well, I have one contractor and an assistant. Well, what's your annual revenue? About $220,000. Well, that's great. What are you focused on? Well, I'm rolling out my Instagram strategy, and I have a new YouTube strategy, and I've really been focused a lot on Facebook. And, we're just about to launch this Twitter initiative. And I'll say, well, which one of those platforms are you strongest on? Well, we really didn't use a lot of them when we got to where we are now. And so I'm not that great at any of them. And again, this is one of those things that if you go focus on all of those channels when you're at a point in your career where you don't have any help, you're going to overwhelm yourself and be really bad at a bunch of different stuff. It's just like the companies that try and start with 5 products, 5 promotions, 5 delivery processes. Heck, let's just do simple math. If you're the only person in the business, who's going to do all of that? Who is possibly going to make all that happen? And I'm not saying there aren't businesses out there that have done this. It's just really a lot harder, and it takes a lot longer, and it's a lot more painful. It's just like social media. Follow the path of your gurus. Here's what I can tell you all of us did. We mastered one platform first. There was a point where the only thing I did was Facebook. That's it. I understood it. It was an app on my phone. I didn't know which one I was going to start with, so I just started with Facebook, and that's all I did for years. It was probably 2 or 3 years before I started putting any real effort into any of the other platforms. And I had people on my teams that looked at them, but I wanted to master Facebook. And so today, when I put a post on Facebook that asks for engagement, I get insane engagement. But I spent a ton of time on Facebook, and I have credibility there. I have social credibility there. I've spent a lot of time there. I've answered a lot of questions. I've mastered that platform. So today, does my company have initiatives on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram? Yes. We also have consultants that are helping us. We are at a point in our company's revenue where we can afford expertise and we can afford time, other people's time. So it makes sense for me to have all of those going. But if you're just starting out, don't follow where I am now. I focused on Facebook. It was cheap. You could get real engagement with real people. You could actually sell stuff without ever running an ad. Heck, I sold stuff from my personal page all the time. And that if you're just starting out, that's the place for you to start. And here's something I want you to just think about. We are in this brave new world of business where the things that used to matter don't matter anymore. Things like, really awesome branding or perfect logos or a really nice website or all of those things, they're just not necessary. And I have clients that are proving it every single day. I worked with Gym Launch, Alex and Layla Hormozi, and they built over a $20 million company without ever putting up a website. They weren't worried about their logos. I'm pretty sure one of them might have done it, or they hired a designer on like a design crowdsourcing site. And so all of the noise of starting a business can be turned off by this. Here's where you should be focused. Finding one product, one promotion, one process that you can go out and sell, and preferably to one avatar that you can learn better than anybody in the world. Because if you do that, then you will grow to $1 million and grow past that, and you'll have the money and the resources to get help. And then you can go out and open up your second product or your second avatar. Because again, it's about simple math. When you start a business, there's a lot to do. You have to create a product, and you have to make sure that it's good, and you have to make sure that it gets the desired result. You have to find a promotion that speaks to an avatar that cares about your product, and you have to be able to access their attention in a world that is insanely noisy. And then you have to deliver that product over and over again with a process that is clear and that people get a consistent result and that people trust. And then as you scale that deliverable, as you succeed, it actually gets more painful for you as a business owner because you end up doing more as you succeed. So then you have to start to build the team to help you. And so when you start out in a business, simplify, make it easy for yourself. You will succeed if you give yourself a chance. One product, one promotion, one process, ride it all the way to $1 million. Master one social media channel first. Don't worry about the stuff like branding and logos and all those other things until you've actually sold, until you know you have a product, a market for your product. If you're actually making a physical product, a retail good, go with minimum effective dose so you can get proof of concept. Nothing hurts my chest more than watching entrepreneurs spend tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars without ever trying to actually sell their product to someone. If you're selling a retail product, heck, go stand in a supermarket aisle near your competition and ask people if they would buy your product. Do whatever you can to get information on that product so that you have one product, one promotion, one process that actually works and you don't complicate. Because when you look at the people you respect today, when you look at the people that you follow, when you start understanding them, when you see, all of the things that we have, the fact that, we have the brands, the logos, the websites, the podcasts, all the social media presence, all of that, that was a result of following a very simple path. And you will get those results too if you simplify, make things easy on yourself, and win. I mean, after all, as entrepreneurs, we're in the unique, privileged situation of setting up the rules for ourselves. Most human beings have to play by someone else's rules. You play by your own. Set up the game so that you can win. Follow the path, not the result. And I want you to join me next week. If you're an entrepreneur who's building a business, if you're growing your team, if you are looking at making your next million, if you've made a few 100,000, you want to grow to 7 figures or more, next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central, I am sharing the full billionaire code, and it's live, and I'm answering all questions. This is not a webinar. This is a live presentation of the same keynote speech that I shared at ClickFunnels in front of over 3,500 or 4,000 entrepreneurs. I don't know how many Russell had, but it was huge. One of the most intense stages I've ever been on. Portions of this presentation were shared at Titan Summit with Robin Sharma. I've been on stages with Tony Robbins and Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and Shaquille O'Neal, and the list is crazy because of this content. And I have entrepreneurs who hear the Billionaire Code for the first time tell me that finally they have clarity as to where they are, what they need to focus on next, and how they can create momentum right now. I want to give that to you. Join me next week on my webinar, billionairecode.com/focus. Take a second right now and register, billionairecode.com/focus.